I think last week I said I was busy playing Scorn for review.
Don't know if you said you were playing. I don't know if you could see you playing it, but yes, you were playing.
I was playing Scorn.
This
Yeah, I got it quite a while back, quite a while ago, and like, oh god, the video is just stuttering.
God, why is it stuttering?
Yeah. Maybe play it through VLC or something.
Good lord. Apologies.
So I got the game quite a while ago. I put in a draft this Monday. I thought the embargo was like the next day. Turns out it was halfway through release day, which should tell you a lot about what you need to know about Scorn.
Wow.
This game is it's like an adventure puzzle game that is set in a world that is heavily inspired by the likes of H.R. Geiger. So if you've ever watched Alien or Prometheus, these sort of like biomechanical, fleshy grossness that those movies have just ratcheted up to like 100, because that is mostly what Scorn is. It's like every mechanism in there is like metal fused into
flesh or something,
organic matter. Machines like work off the like blood and flesh of other beings, and like it's weird. Like if you're watching the video, you see like the switch is activated by you putting your fingers in this weird like finger glove flesh thing. It's all very off-putting, but like intentionally so. Like it's not done in a way that is meant to be like this is. I mean, it's meant to be disgusting and gross and violent, and in that regard, it kind of succeeds. I think it adapts the source material or the inspirations at least very well, and I think it's biomes because each act takes place in like a very distinct like closed off area. I think each of those is like quite varied and visually distinct and has its own sort of like machinations and machines that move all in tune with one another. They feel like solving puzzles in this game, they're twofold. So each act is like one larger puzzle where you're moving things from like one end of the space to the other, or solving smaller puzzles to open up doors that give you access to new areas. And each of the bigger areas feels like a real Rube Goldberger machine. Like it just all clicks in, like sort of like you know the game Mousetrap, the board game, right? Like when you're building everything and then when you set it off and you see everything interconnect and it's like going off. That's sort of how the puzzles work in a very slow manner. You're seeing it slowly like interconnect, which is pretty neat. I think that part of it is pretty cool. And even though the ways you're solving the puzzles are pretty rudimentary, the ways that they pay off, I think are pretty rad. The puzzles themselves, especially the smaller ones, they're sort of like mini games. So you'll go to a
console,
a switchboard, for instance, and suddenly now like to activate the switch, it's like a little maze game, or it's one of those games where like you need to rotate all of the circles into a specific direction, but as you rotate one, the other two rotate as well. So you've got to like figure out the correct order to rotate them. It's sort of, and there's one other puzzle which is like that board game Traffic Jam, where you've got to move things. Things can only move like up or down or left and right, and there's only a specific number of spaces. So you've got to move things so that you can get one thing from the one end to the other end. So it's like a spatial awareness thing. So it's all like formats of puzzles that you've played before. Like you see them and you're like, cool, I know exactly how this works. It's just looks grosser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I paused the game. Yeah, I don't know. So
I was like, what happened?
Yeah. So I don't really think those puzzles were that great because they were immediately familiar, and then they were repeated a bunch of times very quickly in succession. Like if you got to the rotating circle ones, for example, the next 2 or 3 doors that you needed to open all were just that puzzle again, just like a slightly harder version. So it just got super annoying very, very quickly. And for a game where like puzzles are pretty much 50% of what you do, if the smaller ones are annoying to do, I think it's a bit of a failure on that front to actually like engage the player like on a challenging like cranial level. So yeah, didn't enjoy that. I think the thing I super did not enjoy, I cannot emphasize enough how much I did not like this part, was combat. Like it is bad. Like,
Nice.
just straight up terrible. So I wasn't aware, but I went back and looked because I was curious. But this game was marketed as not having a lot of combat. Like, they were straight up saying this is not a shooter. That is a lie. I will tell you that right now, that is not true. Because from probably the end of Act 2 up until all the way to 5, you are consistently fighting enemies.
Oh, really?
To the point where you cannot avoid them. So there are a lot of instances where you will see an enemy in a larger room at a distance, and you're like, cool, if I just kite them here, I can get around them, no problem. You know, standard horror stuff, you want to actually avoid enemies more often than you want to engage them, just like a Resident Evil. Yeah. But then there are times where enemies will just spawn in hallways where there is no other way to go. Like, you need to go this way. And you will like walk towards this hallway, and one will just fucking appear there. And most of the enemies are all ranged enemies. And for a very long time in the game, you do not have a ranged weapon.
Oh, no.
You have a weapon that shoots out like a little alien mouth. Look, that's what it looks like. But it maybe does a meter of damage in front of you. On top of that, that weapon specifically, the first one, takes, I think, 4 or 5 shots to kill the base enemies, or like 2 shots to kill very small ones, 4 or 5 to kill ones that you encounter quite frequently. And you have to wait for like a seconds long cooldown, maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 seconds between every 2 shots. So it is just stupid.
Painful.
It's honestly, you're in this tight hallway. This guy will kill you very, very easily. He's doing range shots. You have to get right up close to him, hit him twice, then run around a circle while you're like waiting for this cooldown to expire. You also can't see the cooldown because the UI only surfaces when you aim. But when you aim, you can hardly move. So like if I aim to check how much cooldown I've got on this weapon, I'll get hit. So if I don't have enough, so I've just got to like remember, like try and figure out how long I need to wait before I can maybe take another 2 shots, then do this whole rigmarole again. That's for one enemy. Then you start getting rooms where there are like 3, 4, 5 of these guys at once. And you're like, well, I've got to avoid them. There's no way I can kill them. There's just no way. I'll just die. So what it led to was a lot of times me just dying, which fine, game's hard, cool. But that surfaced the whole other issue I had, which is how aggressive the checkpointing is.
Oh, yeah?
So the checkpointing, I could tell later on in the game, the checkpoints were saving checkpoints after key points in a puzzle, but not all key points. So for example, at the beginning of Act 3, you have to run around a small area and find an upgrade for this like item that you have that like unlocks doors. And every time you upgrade it, you can unlock different types of doors. So I'd have to get that. I'd have to go, unlock a door, kill an enemy, continue, hit a switch to rotate a fan, come back, more enemies have spawned, kill those enemies, go back. If I died at any point there, started me at the start of the act, where I'd have to get the key thing again. And that I cannot tell you how many times that happened. Like, I was just, at this point, I'm like, I've played about an hour and a half of the same fucking section over and over and over again. And every time I try it, it's like almost 15, 20 minutes of just trying, like infuriating. Then you only get one autosave spot. So if the game decides to autosave and you are 1 hit away from death, you've just got to fucking deal with it. Like, the only other way you can get avoided is restarting the act. And each act is about an hour and a half long. So if you are right at the end and you checkpoint and you are now in front of a hallway where an enemy is spawning, or there's a bunch of enemies that you're struggling to avoid because, hey, the smaller ones have this ridiculous range and it's almost impossible to dodge their shots at the movement speed you have.
I know.
Good luck. Like, you got to straight up, you got to get lucky. Like, there were numerous times where I was running past enemies, hoping to God that I'd like not clip through them, but they would move in a different way and I'd just get past them, because that's the only method of progression I had. There was nothing more I could do other than lose an hour of progress. And then if you actually encounter a bug, which happened to me, I clipped through an enemy as I killed him. It auto-saved. I was stuck. Could not. I reloaded that save, was stuck, could not move. Lost an hour and a half of progress because I had to restart the entire act. Fuck that.
The worst,
come on.
Yeah.
Like, how? If you're going to have a save system that restrictive, you better be super certain that something like that can't happen.
Yeah.
Because losing an hour and a half of progress in a game is not acceptable. It in today's standards, it's just not. Like, it's infuriating as well when a game is 6 hours long and it has the ability to throw 25% of that out of the window just because I clipped into an enemy.
But you can't save manually either. Like, impossible.
You can't. No. You have no manual save. So you are at the whims of this autosave, like, completely. And the only saves you can reload are last checkpoint or the beginning of each act that you've completed. I had to walk away from this game multiple times. Like, Shani can attest to me sitting here and literally just like swearing, just being like, fuck this. Like, it is, you know, I've played Elden Ring. I played Elden Ring for 100 hours this year. FromSoft games are frustrating and their bosses are frustrating. And there are times that I was like, I need to just chill out with this boss. But there is a difference there because they are frustrating because I'm not understanding something. The game is not intentionally unfair.
It's never the game being unfair. It's exactly it.
Yeah. Scorn is unfair. Scorn feels completely unbalanced when it comes to its combat. It's not. It feels like it requires a certain finesse from you that the game doesn't afford you through its mechanics. On top of that, there's only 4 weapons in the game. I somehow only got 3. So it's entirely possible for you to miss a weapon and just have a harder time of it. I can definitely see that they have designed the game around this because there is one boss in the game and it's right at the end. And he is definitely designed for you to only kill him with the first starting weapon. I could see that. But I could also not imagine how nightmarish that would be because that would probably make me quit the game. I'd be like, I'm done. Forget this shit. So yeah, there's a good chance that a lot of the struggles I had, like in Act 3, Act 4, were because the game was sort of balanced for me, balanced around the idea of having 2 weapons, which the second one I ended up finding out is a rifle, which gives me a lot more range in my attacks, which fucking hell yes, that would have helped tons.
Yeah.
And it might have changed my entire experience with the game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if that's the case, your combat can't be balanced one way or the other. It has to manage both.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a bad time. Like, listen, there are a bunch of other reviews out there that there's some that gave this game an 8 to 7, whatever. I totally get that. Like, they probably had a very different experience with the game. I spoke to people at GameSpot who had different experiences with the game. You know, that is what a game review is, but I can only talk about what I played.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, a game review is, I played a game, here's how it made me feel.
Yeah.
And this game made me feel tons of frustration to the point where I just never want to see it again.
That's what the developers wanted,
again.
though. Success.
Maybe. Who knows?
Great success.
I really do not like it, and I do not think I will be the only person who plays it and finds the same sort of flaws in it.
I still
I think actually Eurogamer was quite similar to my review, which was interesting to read. They had issues with the checkpointing and lost progress on save. So it's definitely not. And I looked through the patch notes because we were given the patch notes for the day 1 patch. And, you know, I had to make sure that the issue I ran into wasn't, my issue was not there. So, whatever, man.
Despite your grievances, the fact that it's a 6-hour game, I'm still kind of curious to just at least try it out.
I don't dissuade you from giving it a go.
Yeah.
You might end up enjoying it. There was not enough there. The setting and the puzzles were not good enough that I was like, cool, I can overlook this combat. It was like the puzzles are already boring, and now this combat is straight up broken. Yeah. So
it's on Game Pass, so
It's on Game Pass. I mean, worth a look
people.
if you're really keen. The aesthetic is really nice. I think it adapts it super well. It's real fucking gross. It's not scary. It's billed as a horror. I do not recall one moment where I was like tense. It doesn't really have much shock value. Like after the first hour or so, you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. Every machine in here is mangling my hands. Great. Yeah.
Nice.
Whenever I press a button and I put my hand into some machine, I'm just going to expect to get like fucking destroyed a little bit and bloodied and then I carry on. So it kind of like loses that effect pretty quickly. But yeah, it's weird and the atmosphere is strange. And it looks pretty good. I think it looks quite nice. I really do not like the sound the guns make when they need to reload. It sounds like a wet, squishy flesh noise, and I do not like it.
I know.
I'm not a fan.
I think it's probably one of the strengths of the game, though. I'm sure its sound design is real good.
Sound design's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Just imagine being that sound team, like the brief.
Yeah, I would actually love like a behind the scenes video of how they did it, because it's always weird. Like, what was it? I think it was Mortal Kombat. They said like some of the sounds for the fatalities, they had like pieces of meat in a bucket that they were hitting with like a hammer to make that squishy like.
I can't remember what game or movie it is, but somebody was like, yep, the sound of a snapping celery in half is pretty much the same sound as a neck snapping in half. You're like, what?
Oh, I have heard that. Yes. Yeah. Foley teams at sound teams, they find the most incredible ways to like mimic sounds like on the cheap. It's
so
really,
next time
really
you're
cool.
eating some cereal, just snap that bad boy in half and go, that's what it
fatality.
Sounds like. So that's Scorn.
That's Scorn. Yeah, it's on Game Pass. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear if other people have thoughts on it. If you play it and you find
I'll get
a very different experience.
When we're out of this thick, dense review season, we are
Jesus,
now
and it's not slowing down anytime soon.